Hello students, so today let's start with a new chapter, tracing changes through 1,000 years of history. Chapter first. Let's look at the two maps that have been given to you. This is map number 1. Do you see something that is weird? Can you notice something like that in this map? Okay, and if we look at map 2, can you relate this map? Is it somewhat similar to what map we follow today? Yes. So, take a look at maps 1 and map 2. Map 1 was made in 1154 CE by the Arab geographer Al-Idrisi. The section reproduced here is a detail of the Indian subcontinent from his larger map of the world. So this map, if we look, was made in 1154 by Arab geographer Al-Idrisi. There is a huge world map, and from that they have taken the section of India. This is India's section at that time. And if we also looked at map 2, it was made in 1720s by a French cartographer. Now can you tell me who's a cartographer? Cartographer is some person who makes map. Yes, so he made this map in 1720s. If we look at both the maps, the two maps are quite different, even though they are of the same area. Even this is of India in 1154, and even this is of India in 1720s. In an Al-Idrisi's map, South India is where we would expect to find North India, and Sri Lanka is at the island at the top. This is the map. If we look at, this is North India. Generally at this part we have South, but this is North India, and in South where we have Sri Lanka, they have shown it here, that is in the north in Al-Idrisi's map. So they have shown it inverted way. Place names are marked in Arabic, and there are some well-known names like Kannauj in Uttar Pradesh, that is spelled in the map as Kannauj. If we look here, there is Kannauj. Yeah, yes, so they have named some places there. And if we look at the map 2, map 2 was made nearly 600 years after map 1, during which time information about the subcontinent has changed considerably. If we compare both the maps, the time has changed, the map has changed. This map seems more familiar to us, map number 2 seems more familiar to us. If we look here, yes. And the coastal areas in particular are surprisingly detailed. If we look at the coastal areas, they are pretty much same, and they are quite mentioned in detail. See, each and every area has been mentioned here and here, right? This map was used by European sailors and merchants on their voyages. Whenever they traveled, they used to use this map. European sailors, even who came from Europe to India, they followed this map. Look at the areas in the interior of the subcontinent on map 2. Are they as detailed as those on the coast? If we look at the interior, are they detailed as the areas they were detailed in the coast? Follow the course of river Ganga and see how it is shown. Why do you think there is a difference in the levels of detail and accuracy between coastal and inland areas in this map? So if we look at these maps, see this, let's follow the course of river Ganga. Can you spot river Ganga? Yeah. So if we look at the areas in the interior are not that detailed as compared to the areas that are detailed on the subcontinent coastal areas. Right? Can you think the difference? Why is it so? We would discuss this in the class. Okay. Equally important is the fact that the science of cartography differed in the two periods. When historians read documents, maps, text from the past, they have to be sensitive to the different historical backgrounds, the context in which the information about the past was produced. So from the two maps, we can derive that there is science, there was difference between how historians looked at the map, how they framed the maps, how they read the documents, text or anything. And historians had to be more focused on the information they got from the past. They had to be more focused and they had to be sensitive because the information written was different from different perspective. They differed from different point of view, and hence they had to read it very sensitively. We can trace many things, but before that we should be aware of the new and old terminologies. If the context in which information is produced changes with the time, what about the language and meanings? If the information produced changes with the time, then what about the language and meanings? The earlier, the way people wrote about information was different now from what people write. So if information changes, then what about the language and meanings? Even they might change, right? So, historical records exist in the variety of languages which have changed considerably over the years. Medieval Persian, for example, is different from modern Persian. The difference is not just with regard to grammar and vocabulary. The meanings of words also change over time. They have given here the example of Persian language. Medieval Persian was different from modern Persian. And these differences not only in terms of grammar and vocabulary, the meanings of the words has also changed over time. Like take the term Hinduism, for example. Today we understand it as India, the modern nation state. When the term was used in the 13th century by Minhaj-i-Siraj, a chronicler who wrote in Persian, he meant the areas of Punjab, Haryana and the lands between Ganga and Yamuna. He used the term in a political sense for lands that were a part of dominions of the Delhi Sultan. The areas included in this term shifted with the extent of the Sultanate, but the term never included South India. By contrast, in the early 16th century, Babur used Hindustan to describe the geography, the fauna, and the culture of the inhabitants of the subcontinent. As we will see later in the chapter, this was somewhat similar to the way the 14th century poet Amir Khusro used the word Hind. While the idea of geographical and cultural entity like India did exist, the term Hindustan did not carry the political and national meanings which we associate with it today. We can also take another example of the term Hindustan. When the term Hindustan was used for the first time in the 13th century by Minhaj-i-Siraj, who was a chronicle, he wrote in Persian the Hindustan term. At that time, Hindustan included the areas of Punjab, Haryana and the land between Ganga and Yamuna. He only used Hindustan for that part. He never used Hindustan, or South India was never included in this part of Hindustan. Then when in 16th century Babur used this term Hindustan, he used it to describe the geography of a particular place, the fauna, that is the vegetations and everything, and the culture of the subcontinent, culture of inhabitants. Inhabitants are the people who live there. So he used this term Hindustan to describe about them. As we will see later in the chapter, this was somewhat similar to the way the 14th century poet Amir Khusro also used the word Hind, and he used it in the same manner Babur used. So At that time, Hindustan was used for geographical and cultural entity. The term India did exist at that time, but the reference in which it was used is different, and what we use today as India or Hindustan, we completely use it in for political term to define our boundaries and everything, and also for the national meaning that I am a Hindustani or I live in India. So the term changes, the meaning of the words has also changed. That is what they are trying to say here, that since ancient times we have changed the meanings of the words. Historians today have to be careful about the terms they use because they meant different in the past. Take for example a simple term like foreigner. It is used to mean someone who is not an Indian. In the medieval period, a foreigner was any stranger who appeared in the given village, someone who was not a part of that society or culture. In Hindi, a part of that society, or in Hindi, the term Pardesi might be used to describe such a person. In Persian, it was Ajnabi. A city dweller, therefore, might have regarded as a forest dweller a foreigner. But two peasants living in the same village were not foreigners to each other, even though they may have had different religions or caste backgrounds. So the historians, whatever term they use today, they have to be very careful because the meanings in the past and the present might have changed, or they might have different meanings for the same word. Here they have given another example for foreigner. Today we use this term for people who do not stay in India or who's from not India, and for those kind of people we use the term foreigner. But in medieval period, foreigner was used for a stranger who appeared in the same village but did not belong to that part of the society or culture. Like a city dweller might call a forest dweller as a foreigner, though they live in the same village, though they live in the given village, but they do not belong to the same society or the same culture, they term the other person as foreigner. But if the same two peasants who live in the same village are not considered as foreigners, even though they belong to different religion or different caste backgrounds, because they belong to the same society or the same cultural background. Hence, he was termed as foreigner. Forest dweller termed city dweller as foreigners, and two peasants cannot be termed as foreigners. I hope you are clear with this part. We will continue with this next part in the next class. Thank you.